Imagine a film set where props not only look authentic, but move, behave, and interact seamlessly with actors and virtual environments, all without manual resets or human errors. Sounds futuristic? Well, it's happening today thanks to innovators like our guest, Andy Harris, CTO and founder of Automated Film Props. Andy's background is in control, instrumentation, and cybersecurity, uniquely positions him to bridge the gap between narrative storytelling and technical wizardry. His work integrates real-world props directly into Unreal Engine, bringing interactive realism and narrative depth to every scene. On today's episode, Andy unpacks the possibilities and challenges of automated props, exploring how digital triggers, real-time interactions, and sustainability are reshaping the landscape of filming. Welcome to the Starting Pixel podcast, the podcast dedicated to exploring the new, innovative, and disruptive technologies transforming film, television, advertising, social media, and content creation of all kinds. From XR to AR, digital humans to AI, and location capture, LED walls, and beyond. Each week, we demystify groundbreaking tech for creatives, producers, directors, and cinematographers who are navigating this exciting, evolving landscape. Whether you're a seasoned technical veteran or brand new to virtual production, our mission is to inspire, educate, and connect our global community of stellar storytellers. Why film it any other way? Andy, hello. How's that for an introduction?
That was an introduction, wasn't it? Yeah. I've got to live up to it now.
Exactly. I had to breathe in there somewhere, I think, as well, kind of thing. So, welcome. So, start off with Andy. Who's Andy Harris? And where did you come from your background of cybersecurity and control engineering, and then ended up in doing these props? Tell us a little bit about your background story.
Probably since the age of about 9, I've been connecting things together that didn't really want to be connected together. To bring us to today, I had a revelation one evening while I was in the generating board. Anyway, I realised that we were being war-dialed, thought about it, and realised that the networking we use need to have an idea called log out and disconnect, disconnect on log out. Then began 40 years of cybersecurity. During that time, cybersecurity, to get us back to filming, a good friend of mine, Anthony Burt, bought a GH2 camera, and a Russian called Vitaly Kiselkev worked out that it was the same chip and sensor that was on the news-gathering FZ55 Panasonic camera.
Okay.
And he worked it out by taking a Dremel and dremeling this thing apart and opening it all up and going, well, that's the same chip and that's the same sensor. And then he set about messing with the firmware to give the GH2 the same video rate as the FZ.
Okay.
The downside was you'd eat a battery in about 12 minutes and it'd get incredibly hot, but it gave you great quality. And Anthony Burt, I've got a bunch of friends that come from two sides. One of them amateur filmmaking. That's where Anthony comes from. He's always loved competitions, for example. And I know some professional filmmakers. And together we would go to the BVE show.
I got you.
And anyway, I got hold of this Russian guy, got hold of his firmware, installed it on the GH2, which I'd bought from eBay, and all the menus changed, of course. So I went to see him. I said, well, what does all this mean? And he went, well, I've not been brave enough to put it on my camera because it would brick it. So that was that switch from hobby-wise photography to video. Another really important step along the way is an implementation of Python called MicroPython, which runs on very small ESP32 chipsets. Then the next one is there's an actor called Richard Cambridge, and he was in the film Gran Turismo. And he called me one night. It's the Sony one where the kids basically take all the kids that play the Gran Turismo sim and then they put them in real cars. Yeah. And of course, all the cars are props. So they're all being driven by, in some cases, the cars are being shaken and there's some poor sap with his hand up underneath operating the dials. And when they were in one of the very hot places and Italy, they were spending up to 12 hours of the day in their trailers being called out to shoot for 5 to 10 minutes, then go back again while all the props were reset. And I chatted to Richard Cambridge, and in the drive, the sort of 40-minute, that's DMX made that flash then, not me.
All right, we can talk about DMX in a minute.
We can talk about DMX. Kind of roughly thought out the whole architecture of a set-wide network that would integrate props and people and some other things come along the way. And then the next jolt that I got was actually yourself.
Right. Okay.
You may remember this. You're on a panel with 4 people, and
Right.
then the guy next to you says something, and I think, "Oh, that's interesting." And then you start talking about virtual production and what it means.
Right.
And I thought, "Oh yeah, of course. Unreal Engine's got this massive API. Well,
Yeah.
they've got an API. They've got WebSockets. Well, we'll talk about
All
WebSockets. We
right.
could
I can
talk
talk
about
about.
WebSockets. They've got WebSockets. And I think I just said, do you realise we could have something in the background control the foreground and something in the foreground control the background? And you said to me something like, well, what does that mean? I said, well, if somebody shoots a gun, something in the background explodes. If somebody hits a switch, the lights in the background come on, and the practical lights
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
cinematic lights work together. And you went, yeah, that's a good idea. And I went, all right, okay. You gave me your card and off I went. And then when I got home, I actually started working on Unreal Engine and putting these things together. And at the same time, I was putting all the props together. And what had happened just before that as well, which sort of brings me to the idea of automated film props as a little craft come technological come artistic company.
It's not often, I guess, that someone can put so much expertise that they've learned in one field into something that could actually have such a massive impact. It would be very, I'd imagine it'd be quite difficult for people who build props generally that don't interact with things. That they don't think of it through that way. So it's a sort of a dumb device, right? You know, you might have, as you say, you've got some.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you had someone with their arm up, twiddling the needles, or they do a close up of it. That's the other classic, isn't it? And then you do that kind of stuff. So it's a really interesting way that you've pivoted at some point to go, yeah, actually, I know I can make all of this work, which is a great thing. I think it's one of the classics of actually how virtual production just exists. It's because a bunch of people worked out
That
that
they could do it.
actually they
Yeah.
can do that. They can put a camera, hold on, and a tracking unit on top, and they can get it to talk to Unreal Engine, and you can do this, that, and the other. And oh yeah, I can make all that work. So it's a similar sort of process, which is it's amazing.
I kind of watched all that stuff as it was coming together, and because I knew I was coming on this podcast, I think it was kind of Monday or Sunday. Set myself the challenge of making a micro volume in my living room at home, and I now know how difficult it is just to do it
Right?
with the bits you've got around.
Yeah.
And we can look at the result. I sent you some pictures of it uh, while I was doing it. But to me, the way that all the things fit together are incredibly logical to me. So that understanding of a prop itself has local control and gets on and does a thing
Yeah.
in a else like a little control panel like this. This is just a control panel that I can use for, I don't know, switching a light over there on and switching a light
Right.
over there off. That's the global intelligence. But over there, there's a simple switch. And in here, there's a linear motor. And in here, this is a lovely old gauge. I've kind of got into buying old gauges off of eBay.
Of course you have.
And then,
And then sticking stuff in the back of it.
and then ripping the guts out and putting those things in.
We're going to go for a break. And then we're going to come back. And then we're going to dive a bit more deeply into actually what on earth you do.
Oh,
This episode is brought to you by Morden Wolf. Not sure where to start? How big a stage do you actually need? What about driving plates? Do you even need them? Is Unreal Engine necessary? Wait, what is Unreal Engine? You're thinking about virtual location scouting, but should you? How much is this all going to cost? And the big one, am I about to wreck my career by going the virtual production route? Yeah, there's lots of questions, and guessing your way through virtual production isn't the answer. That's where Morden Wolf comes in. We're an independent virtual production supervision studio, here to guide you from cradle to grave, whether you're just dipping your toes into VP or knee-deep in LED walls and camera tracking. We make sure you get exactly what you need. No overspending, no mishaps, just the right solution for your production. So if you need someone in your corner, choose Morden Wolf. Visit mordenwolf.com to find out more. Morden Wolf, why film it any other way? Right, welcome back. So I'm going to be the voice of naivety in this, and we're going to show a lot of visual stuff, and this is a podcast, so it goes on audio. So I'm going to try and describe what we're looking at the time being. We will be editing some of the videos together. We'll put links in the podcast as well, so people can watch some of the bits and pieces when they can. You spoke a bit earlier on in your sort of your journey from power stations all the way through to building props, interactive props, automated props. So what is a automated prop?
Fundamentally, to me, an automated prop is a prop that can either receive, send, or both events to a network, and those events result in something physical or virtual happening.
Okay, so if I can play that back to you.
Yep.
So you've got so an actor's on stage with a prop, and that prop is a button. No, yes, it's a thing with a button.
Go with a gauntlet, because I've always wanted to do a gauntlet. I haven't got
with
one.
A gauntlet.
I want to do a gauntlet.
So an actor's got a gauntlet, and it's a gauntlet with a bunch of buttons on it. If we've ever seen The Predator, classic scene right at the end where they starts pushing some stuff on a gauntlet, and there's a big explosion, right? So that's the scene. We've got a alien with a gauntlet on, and they're interacting with this thing. Now, when they push the button marked in layman's term, what happens when they push, or what can happen when they push that button X? So traditionally, nothing would happen, right? There'd be no audio, there'd be nothing click. They'd just be literally doing that. What is different between traditional, which is pushing that X, nothing happening, and what happens with automated props?
If you take something like the original Ghostbusters, that button or that switch would have done something locally within the prop. So you hit a switch and an LED comes on.
Got you.
In an automated prop, you can press the button, and the way that I would normally do it is that when you press the button, two contacts close and an event is generated.
So I need to explain everything. So Andy's gone over to a dashboard, and he explained this dashboard a little bit earlier. And all it is a computer monitor. But what it's got is a fascia on the front of it that has holes cut in it. That means that when you look at it, you're looking at a bunch of dials. It looks like a control panel, so it hides the rest of the screen. So that's what he's got. And he just went up to that panel and he pushed a button, and within that panel, a little button turned red, and it was green, and it went red. So if I play this back to you again, Andy, just to on the gauntlet side of things. So super traditionally, alien pushes the gauntlet button marked X, nothing happens. Slight internal, so that you explained. The alien pushes the button marks X, and the button lights up because there's a battery in it, and there's a little light bulb behind the button, and he pushes that, and it lights up. The automated prop, what you do is that you push that button, it lights up, but then something else happens that can be either, I'm assuming, can be either within shot or not in shot.
Yes. Now, can I? Right. I'll explain it a little bit more.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So you press the button.
Yep.
The fact that you've pressed the button is an event. The event is consumed by a central server, and that central server says, hang on, the light on the gauntlet needs to come on. So it sends back a signal to the light telling the light how bright it needs to be on.
Right.
But it may do something more complicated than that, because in films, you sometimes want to create tension. So you might want to, for example, the value that you send, you might not want it to be a continuous value. You might want it to be a glitching value.
Right. So for the hold that back up again, actually, Andy. So just for the audio people, and it's just hold up. Sort of, it looks like an old. It's got reactor incoming header, and there's a needle running across an arc. It's like a bit of an amp meter, I guess.
It's a radiation meter, actually.
It's a radiation meter.
It's an interwar radiation meter.
And what it's doing, the needle is just glitching upwards and down. So it's sort of giving the impression that the static or the radiation is sort of jiggling about. It's not sitting at 30, it's not sitting at 20, it's not high, it's not going smoothly running up and down. It's moving around sort of almost randomly kind of thing. So let me just play that back to you again, Andy. So I'm going to do this.
Now,
doing this.
It's gone right up to the end.
And now it's gone up to the right at the end, because what you've done in the background is played around that. So the difference of that, what we've been talking about, is that the prop that is of the gauntlet, Alien has pushed it and it's pushed the X, and
Yep.
normally it would light up. Rather than it actually just being the ability to light up, you can be that prop can now be directed. In as
Yes.
much the director can now say, actually, that's too bright, or the
Yep.
DOP might go that.
Yep.
That's the wrong color. Can we try it in green? Or you could do something else. Or you could be longer. Actually, can make you that prop go longer. So rather than hard coding that action within the prop and you're stuck with it, what they're able to do is say, Andy, can you actually just change that button to green? Right.
Yep.
So Andy's holding up now something called a plot critical status, and it's a little device with a bright sort of glowing button. There's another couple of buttons. One of them is blinking, and this one's blinking. So he's now playing around with his keyboard that's connected to this thing, and it's sort of blipping for anyone that's that can't see it.
Now
Now
all off.
and now.
Yep. So effectively, that button, so the button on our aliens, for example, if it's this button here, and it's the alien doesn't know whether their weapons is going to start or not, we can do something like this, which is a slow glitch to 100. I don't know if you saw that, and then a slow glitch off.
Yeah.
So as a storytelling device, you're not confident. Like, I can make that come on and I can make it go off, right? That's a confident LED. So it might only be a light, but what it's adding to the story is that really going to work? Is that really failing? Whereas that is, that's confidently come on, that's confidently come off.
Yeah.
So you have this situation normal, pre-peril, peril, resolution.
Yeah. So, and what you'd normally do in a traditional, you'd normally do a cutaway for that in a traditional, the actor would just hold that piece of polystyrene. They might touch something, and you'd always do a close up of it with somebody else's arm, and you'd do it that way. But what automated props are able to do is that the actual actor can wear that device, can interact with that device, and it can be directed on set by the director, giving feedback to the operator, going more, less, different color, that kind of thing. Yeah, does that sort of
that
so
gets it?
Andy's holding up a chrome dial that goes up to £6,000 per inch.
Pounds per square inch, yeah.
Pounds per square inch, and the needle was sort of smoothly gone round to 6,000 and smoothly returned.
And now I'm going to change it to have some damping.
So what does damping mean? Oh,
so
okay.
Damping. So if I give it maximum amount of damping,
slows down before
and it slows down before it gets to the bottom. So if you imagine that you're running out of a plot critical commodity,
air. Got you. So it sort of starts to slow down. Right, got you.
So, or we can take the speed down, take the damping down, and then actually that is going to take forever to come up, but we'll.
Got you. Yeah. I can see. I can see it slowly rising up now.
So that gives you. One of the things that maybe affects all this is like the Thunderbirds moment. How many of us have watched Thunderbirds in our life and seen all of that stuff? That would have been some of that would have been actually just a voltmeter driving things in the background.
Yeah. Right, and someone with a little twiddly knob.
But doing it this way and being able to interact with props, for example.
Right. So another thing for all the audio listeners. So Andy is sitting in front of some dials. There's some readouts. There's a handle. There's some lamps. There's a clock. There's some digitals, and these are all automated props. Is that right, Andy?
Yep. They're all automated props.
So they've all got a bit of electronics in them that's talking to us. I'm gonna be really dumb. I'm gonna say they're talking to a computer, and that computer, you've got your thumbs on that thing. So Andy's just holding up a circuit board, and that's what its typical is.
So hold it the right way up so you can probably
hold it the right way up.
Yeah. So that's a little driver module.
So that's a driver module that normally goes inside the props, right? So he's built. So there's there's a couple of lamps. There's also things. So okay, so take us on a bit of a tour of your.
Yeah. So for example, you might have something like that. So in this, on a little tour here, we're breaking props down into props that switch and indicate, props that move, and props that read values, and props that display text. And there's there's different types here, but if I go to, and first of all, I'm going to start with this prop over here, which is actually very similar to these, which was kind of inspired by the film Dead Reckoning. You only see it at the beginning. And I actually did a couple of stop frames and thought, oh, they're interesting.
Right, so let me just describe it. So basically, there's a grey box with a digital LED readout, white on black. There's a little green LED, and underneath it, there's a red wheel that looks like a stopcock wheel, basically. And Andy's rotating that circular thing. So that would be, turning a valve on and off. And as he's doing it, the numbers on the readout are increasing and decreasing it depending on which way he does it as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
If I hit the test button,
So
and it says fail, and this
right,
pulse prop here is
triggered.
batshit crazy.
All right. So there's
That is the interaction part where
got you.
one prop is interacting with another.
Got you. Okay. So just the audio listeners, we've got a little sort of looks like the center of this is a very small center of the TARDIS.
Yes.
Is basically a sort of it looks like a lamp with some like an LED that goes from the bottom to the top. Different colors. It's sort of going green at the moment and just pulsating upwards. But as Andy said, so if he pushes a reset button, that prop starts to glow purple or red, certainly warmer, and is pulsating loudly. But crucially, they're not connected, right?
That's right.
They're not wired together.
They're not wired together at all.
No, so one's talking to the computer, and they're both actually talking to the same computer.
Yep.
Is that right? And you're telling one prop to tell the other prop what to do.
Yes, it's
when you do something.
It's a distributed system.
Right, a bit like there used to be this app. I was thinking there still is if this then that. I think it was called.
It's very much if this then that.
Yeah, so it's almost like just a code in BASIC. There's a basic code. If this value equals X, do something else, do something specific, right? Gotcha.
Yeah. We'll have our first share to see what happens.
All right, let's see how it goes.
Share the entire screen and share, and then I'm going to have to dive off and show you that there. So on your screen, you should be looking at a very little configuration that's got threshold and color temperatures and
got you. So yeah, just the audio listeners. Basically, we're looking at a little bit of computer code. Effectively, it's a window. If you know it, if you've sort of come across it before, like terminal, and there's some code basically within that, and things like color temperature highlights, and then there's some values that you can then alter if you want to.
And the thing I'm going to bring your attention to is where it says airlock and auto and locked.
Got you.
So the trigger is airlock 1 and the crucial value is auto and locked. And the prop that is called pulse 1 goes from a different behavior between the airlock being in auto and the airlock being in locked.
Got you.
And the point of showing you that what I believe to be very simple code is that construction could be understood by somebody building something on set and going, I've made an airlock and now I've got these warning lights around it and I want the two of them joined together. And what it means is that on set, those two things are in lockstep and you're never losing a take because some assistant off stage got their timing wrong on buttons. It's just
so traditionally, if you were to try and do that you would have someone's hand on a button when someone calls action. There's either a count or there's some other cue to go. Okay, so this is that. At that point, an assistant pushes a button and they try to marry the two up. But what you're so in automated props, it happens. It's like it just happens because you've programmed it to happen. Yeah,
it just happens.
So it just happens.
Really important about this. If you've ever watched any film where somebody's driving and they're not really driving.
Yep.
If you've ever watched any sci-fi films where they just get hold of throttles and wang them around all over the place, they kind of break the laws of control physics to me, and it's taken me out of the movie.
Yeah, uncanny. I mean, that's the term, right? Is the uncanny valley. As soon as that, and it can be something incredibly simple that triggers that uncanny valley, but as soon as you see it, you don't even have control over the fact that you're out of the immersive of the.
I mean, if we take this next example, you say, right, set the plasma injectors to 2000.
Okay, So Andy's just gone over and twiddling the wheel on the prop again, and he's setting it to 2000.
Set it to 2000.
So when it hits 2000, he's got 1700, 1800, 1900, and just hit 2000.
But my actions, even though I was acting, they're real.
Yeah.
I've genuinely had to interact with that.
Yeah, yeah. So the prop becomes immersive for the actor as well, right? Because they can actually then less. This sounds a bit weird. They're less having to act because now they've got something that they can really sort of interact with, rather than they're having to imagine what the thing's going to do.
Yeah. So nobody's in the wanging the throttles in a sci-fi film. The physical mechanics behind that, the inertia, you try telling an actor what that is, and then you give the actor that,
Right.
and they know what it is. They rehearse with it 2 or 3 times, and they know, okay, I've got to take it down to 1,000. I'm going to wang it down to 1,000 like this.
Facing the microphone.
Facing the microphone, wanging it down to 1,000. Sorry.
That's right. So let me
Yeah.
play that back to you. So you're in the Millennium Falcon.
Yep.
And you got your hand on that big throttle that's about to take you into hyperspace. And actually, what the entire Millennium Falcon could be on some sort of rig,
Yeah.
right? And as actually you push that thing forward, and then suddenly it jolts, the entire rig jolts, or or just the chair jolt. Something that really helps that thing happen. But the interesting thing is that it's direct. You're able to direct it
Yes.
on the fly. So that's too much. That's not enough. Can you jitter it? Can you do that? Can you do something specific? Yes, I like that. That works really well. Brilliant.
And then maybe the other, if we take these 3 across the top, they've got CH.
So these are just quickly for the audio listeners. So these are really similar dials to the one that Andy was twiddling with the red handle.
They're gauges.
They're gauges.
And if you look at them,
Digital
they're
gauges.
counting down gently.
Right.
You probably hadn't noticed this. They're counting down gently. And because they're counting down gently, if they were in the background of a scene, this would be situation normal.
Right. Let me just say, so one's got 51,130. Now it's 29, 28. The middle one's got 65,799, 98, 97. And the other one's got 336,665. And it's going down quite rapidly, but it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to put it into a peril situation.
Okay, this sounds exciting. Right, I'm going to try and wait, everyone. Oh, we got red lights going. Oh my goodness, we got a red flashing light on the beacon that we had going, and the far right one is now, the numbers are dropping drastically.
Yep.
Oh my God, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
Kind of thing, right.
So now for our actors, there's time involved, and it's the time before disaster, and then bang, it's hit 0.
Right.
You can't break the laws of physics, Captain. We're out of.
Right. Okay. So that's I like that. That's really interesting.
Let's do that again, right?
Yeah.
I've just reset the prop.
Yep.
They're counting again. Take 2.
Okay, so take 2.
Here goes the peril again.
Got you. Rather than so normally what would happen is that sort of the prop department would have to come back on. They'd have to twiddle a button. They'd have to reset something. Maybe plug a computer into it. Do something like that to reset it. Whereas literally you just push the button and it reset it to 333,000 whatever.
Yep.
Got you.
Completely reset.
Got you.
And then another typical situation, which is there's a little film that goes with this. I've got to be careful that I don't do the wrong one, because one of these sequences switches everything off. But I'll do it this way. So
don't do that.
If you look at this prop here, the breaker prop.
Okay, so it's just a quick one.
My hand there.
That's right. So it's a square prop. It's got a red slider handle, and then there's an LED display with light blue on dark blue, with some numbers on it, I'd say.
It's copied off a Hager 500 amp breaker, actually.
Okay, there we go. For the geeks among us.
For the geeks among us, yeah. So we can put that in a pre-peril state. And in the pre-peril state, you can see that the current's gone up to 765 amps.
Got you.
Then we can put it into a peril state.
It's gone orange.
It's gone orange, and it's gone all the way up.
Right.
And then we can say, you can't push the engines anymore, Captain. Trip.
And so what's just happened is basically the physicality, the slider dropped down and the display went off. And that was triggered by you on the PC, on your computer, right? Got you. And now it's gone. Andy's turned it back on again. The slider's gone back up. The
Everything's
display's
normal.
rebooted and reset
You're just absolutely ready for the next
for
take.
next take.
So
Brilliant.
in here, that is that prop, and the background that you're seeing is Unreal Engine.
Got you. So just for the audio, the audio audience, we're looking at a screen, and there's an out of focus background, and we've got three props in the foreground. We've got one on the left hand side, which is the slider with the display, which we mentioned just before. The middle one is got a light that's sort of pulsating red. There's a pilot support status is red. Oops. Then there was a
Failure there.
on the right hand side. There's a needle sort of at that amp meter reactor thing, right? So that's what's happening at the moment. It all looks absolutely fine. There's nothing particularly happening. Oh, got some red light starting to flash.
Current's going up.
The current's going up. I can see the needles. We got red flash in the needle has gone far to the right hand side. We got red critical on the left hand side display, and suddenly everything's gone off. But really importantly, the out of focus background, which you said was UE, it also turned off.
Yes,
Not the entire display, but a lighting actor.
the lighting.
So there's a
Yeah.
bit of lighting turned off within that as well at the same trigger point.
Yes.
And to your point, to reset that is seconds. Than you've either got three or four people trying to sync the same action with their physical fingers. Instead of that, it all happens.
Yeah. And it really, to me, it really speaks to Cambridge, the actor. It speaks to his point that he was going back to his trailer for hours on end and then coming back to do the same scene and having to remember what he was doing 2 hours ago and the notes that he got, how the director wanted the subtle changes. Then
Right.
he'd do that, and then they'd reset the prop and he'd come back. So his 5 takes were 10 to 12 hours, and he has to switch on and switch off focus. And that's all right if you're a professional like Richard, but a lot of the time, on the smaller productions, you're using the younger and least experienced actors, and something like that.
We've talked a lot about the sort of the concept of the automated prop in regards to each other and talking to each other, but it would be good to just sort of touch on how that works in the world of virtual production.
And what I want to show you is walk and UE. So this is the distance wheel. And
Cool. Let me just quickly explain what's going on. So we've got an actor looking at her clipboard and she's walking towards the camera, but the camera's tracking back perfectly with her in mind. The background is Unreal and it's disappearing off into the background.
Yeah. So I'll just play that again for you because there's a bunch of different things happening here.
Yeah. So you now, talk us through what is going on.
Right. Okay. So distance wheel, and we're going to look at the distance wheel in a second because I've got it here in front of us. Distance wheel is tracking the movement and driving UE. And then in the scene, she comes to a break in the wall where the sunlight comes through. And what you've seen there is a DMX fade. If I just take it back to about here, you're seeing the DMX driven fade that is all driven off the position of the camera in Unreal Engine.
So let me just play that back. So in the Unreal scene behind, it's not static. There is some visual effects going on in it. So there's some sparks flying about as she's walking towards the camera. And then there was some image-based lighting happening. So through a DMX controller, if people don't know what DMX is, it's a protocol for basically being able to control lights, normally used for live events. So people have a slider on a control desk and that will change the intensity of a light or the color of a light, sometimes even the movement, but that's not DMX. So, but it's a protocol that can be used to control lighting in Unreal as well as out of Unreal to control a physical light. And that's what was happening. So she was walking towards it, and as she came next to a window, she became brighter because that was shown. Right.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, there was a subtle as well. There was a color temperature change as well.
Right. Nice. Yeah.
And anyway, this is the wheel, the very wheel that was used.
Right.
And
So Andy's just holding up a wheel, this black wheel.
And that wheel was on the base of a treadmill.
Got you.
And behind us, turn the camera around, you should be able to see some numbers that are changing.
Got you. Yeah, so Andy's just spinning the wheel of this device that he created, and there's a LED monitor in the background that's got 1,265 millimeters in it. As he's spinning it, it's going down to minus 100. It's going up to 2,000 millimeters, 4,000, 5,000 millimeters, 6,000. Yeah. So it changes that directly.
Right. I'm going to do a quick share again, and I'm going to go off to this, which is this blue part here is the control panel for the screen.
Got you. So let me just quickly explain. We're looking at, I think, a web browser. Is that right? Yeah, we're looking at web browser. And there's a panel with blue backgrounds, and there's a red background, and there's a bunch of virtual buttons. They're just basically little oblongs, little rectangles. Some of them got red backgrounds, some of them got green backgrounds. They've got lots of words on them, like Sunlight 02, Sunlight 1.0, and a bunch of other stuff. So over to you, Andy.
What I'm going to draw your attention to is camera minus 1,000 and cameras minus 3,000.
Okay, cool.
So whatever units, and I've always thought UE was measured in millimeters, because if you ever get the standard UE scene with a person in it,
right,
each square is a meter.
Yeah.
This go to minus 1,000, minus 3,000, pulling the camera backwards. What I did was I eyeballed the scene to see how far it went in the scene.
Got you.
And I thought, oh, that's about. And you see these down here, 2 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters, 10 millimeters, 20 millimeters per step. This particular thing is 10 millimeters per step. So every time the encoder goes past one of its things, it says you've gone 10 millimeters.
You've gone to, got you.
In fact, you can see us going round.
Yeah.
And if I actually send it 2 millimeters per step, you'll see that it's going round in 2 millimeter increments.
So just to play back actually the Unreal, what was happening in the sort of the virtual production side of things in that is that the encoder on the treadmill, so as the actor was walking a particular preset amount, because you'd set the treadmill to that was turning the encoder's wheel, which you sort of showed earlier on. As you do that, that sends a signal to Unreal. And then there is within Unreal something called a cine camera.
Yes,
that's like a digital prop of a camera, and you are able to control it. And you can, if you were in Unreal, you could grab a little handle and you could move it around in the 3D. But what you can also do is there's some values that you can change. So if it was set to 1,000 height, you could set it to 500 height, and it would drop half the distance from where it was to the floor. That's the sort of premise of it. What you can also then do is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you connected the output of the encoder that was on the treadmill into those specific variables of that camera. And as that encoder rotated, as the actor was walking, it was changing the variables of where the camera was in Unreal, and it was moving it away from itself. It was just moving backwards.
Yeah, moving backwards in the scene.
And it was moving backwards. Right.
In that case, it was moving in the Y direction.
Right.
That was just the orientation of the scene.
That's the orientation. Got you.
I've done it so that you put a vector in, so that if somebody ever gave you a diagonal scene, you could walk down diagonally.
Got you. Brilliant. Was there any other Unreal Engine virtual production related stuff?
The only other one that's worth having a little look at is the lighting and movement just from Unreal Engine. And so that is the lights coming on to different brightness, switching around different lights. And then this is a move. This is one that I'd done earlier, and I'm going to put the specs of my iMac up there so you can see it was done on a 2017.
So what we're looking at the moment, we're seeing a scene. There's like 3 blocks of gold, I guess, or brass. There's a silver floor, some other bits, and there's some lights shining on these reflective gold blocks, and you can see them reflected in the floor as well. And the camera's moving towards it, as well as the lights are sort of coming on and going off as well. So what's that illustrating?
That was my very first test, and it was a 15-meter move.
Right.
And of course, I put this UE engine. This is my little project.
Right.
And those blocks of 2 meters by 2 meters. So when I did it all in real world scale, and of course it looked perfectly right to me. And then when I downloaded one, that's when I realised I needed to modify software.
Assumption is the
Yes.
the way that you cannot be used in virtual production. Never assume anything.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we're going to go for a break now. And when we get back, we're going to sort of talk a little bit more about the why. Why is this all important?
Okay.
Cool. Oh, hello. It's a bit quiet in here without an ad, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe you want to reach filmmakers, producers, and creatives who are all about the latest innovations in film, TV, advertising, corporate content, or social media. Got a game-changing tool that saves time and money? A virtual production studio that no one's heard of, but hey, you've got free snacks. Or maybe you just want to remind everyone that you're the best brand out there. Well, this silence, it could be yours. Get in touch at startingpixel.com and let's fill this space with something a little bit more exciting. The Starting Pixel podcast. Why film it any other way? Welcome back, everyone. Brilliant. This is exciting. I'm loving this. So I think we've touched on actually a lot of the why. And let me maybe play back. Actually, when I say why, there's a producer, a director, DOP, traditional departments, prop department, the art department. The question is why should this be important for me? Why could I use this? What changes for that? And I guess there's two angles for that. One is general automated props that are directable. So the director or someone can direct what it's doing. And if they don't like it, they can say brighter, dimmer, faster, slower, that kind of thing. Let it talk to the other stuff. I want to do that. So there's that angle. There's that the angle that we sort of touched upon about the actor can interact with that prop and it does stuff as well, and it actually affects. So they push a button. It's not relying on some other sort of cue for other people to do stuff. It just happens. So when they do push the warning button or the spaceship countdown, it's when they push that button. That's when actually things start kicking off and it's all automated. Everything's connected. So there's the I guess the art, the creative side of that part then that we can sort of delve into a little bit more. And then I think then there's this interacting with the environment, and that environment, I mean, it could be the environment of a live suit or a location, but through the lens of virtual production, you say it extends beyond just being props talking to other props. It's props talking to the environment. So if you were to push that button, a flock of seagulls might appear, for argument's sake, within the virtual production Unreal Engine scene. It could start raining. And actually you could then have a prop that had water fountains coming in, right, as well.
Very much. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I kind of know, but then because we're talking virtual, this is the other virtual to me. So it's just an iPad.
So Andy's just holding up an iPad at the moment, and it's got some colourful sort of buttons and displays and stuff, and he's playing around, and he's obviously touching his keyboard, and things are happening on it. So it's going from overload.
Actually, a second iPad. I've actually got two iPads.
Another iPad. So he's touching one iPad, and it's controlling the screen of the other iPad.
What I particularly like about this demo is that this iPad, I can't tell you, this iPad must be more than 10 years old.
Right. Oh, I've got iPad, yeah. They're fine. They're fine.
And obviously, viewers will see that that's a kind of a pastiche of Star Trek and turbo-encabulators. Somebody will know about turbo-encabulators.
Good. Yeah, I'm sure they will do. I'm sure they will. So let's talk about this, the why a bit more then.
So the why, for me, is if you're acting against this,
right,
and you're in a normal situation, and then the situation switches to peril, if the actor's doing this in a traditional way, they're in a room, and they've just got green all over the place, and there's just a green square.
Right,
and they're looking at this green square, and somebody offset is going, Carol!
Right.
And so they're reacting to it. Right. Whereas in this particular case, they're reacting to that.
It's actually happening.
Yeah. They can say, my goodness, the inlet manifolds have become unbalanced.
Right.
And if that's the line, if that's the narrative,
automatically
put it in there, and you've just got a much more natural performance.
Right.
But so this asset here was still made by the art department.
Yes.
So instead of it going off for expensive post-production, where somebody's got to composite it in with the camera moving and all the rest of it, which is typically a 15 grand job.
Yep.
That's an iPad that you put up behind the screen,
Yeah, and as long as you're not getting reflection on it or anything like that. So just to play that back, so there's
Yeah.
the traditional VFX. You'd have a green square stuck on the iPad or something similar with some markers. So when it went into VFX, it's a relatively simple thing to track the orientation of that flat plane, the iPad, and then they overlay the VFX, the controls, and then actually they have to play as well, right? So then they've still got to animate them.
Yep.
Fingers are happening and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
But what Andy's doing and is proving literally in front of our eyes is that you can trigger these things and the actors interacting with it. It's like
Yeah.
it's a real world thing.
And I'm going to try and make it worse for the moment. Right. So now I've got the reflections of the studio lights.
Yeah. So we can see the reflection of the studio lights basically on the iPad because
Or
it's shining.
I've got the reflection of the microphone there. But can you see that the reflections are genuine reflections?
Yeah. So
So in the VFX
right.
world, another bunch of people come along and put all the, like, this has got finger marks all over it.
Yes, right.
So somebody has to put all the finger marks all over it, and
Right.
they have to put all the other stuff on it. But
Got you.
in my world,
They're
it's
already
done.
there. It's
Job
done.
done, tick.
Right.
So you go.
It's all in camera. So it's actually I mean, we use this phrase in camera VFX. I see VFX, which is sort of what we think about in the virtual production world about what it is, because there's a big LED wall and things are happening in it at the sort of same sort of time. But this is just as much in camera VFX. What you're doing, these automated props sit under that umbrella as well, right?
Yeah, it's going back to that little nudge that I made earlier about, virtual production could include virtual props, and that was a virtual prop that I just showed you.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why you would do something like that, is because you're on a production and you haven't got the amount of money that it needs to go to post and make it look good.
Well, I think one of the big challenges, and we've got a VFX person coming on in a few weeks' time, is that there is never enough money for VFX. They're always squeezed massively. They run out of time. It's always the budget that no one can ever predict, and they have to do it because they have to do it, and the margins are incredibly challenging because of that as well.
Money-wise, I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking about process. So what you're doing is you're moving the special effects work from after the shoot to before the shoot.
To pre, exactly. There's this great phrase that actually a few people have come up with it independently, but I remember having a conversation with a guy called Kieran must be 4 or 5 years ago, and we said, "Oh yeah, well you're fixing it in pre, right?
Let's use that.
Right, you fixed it in pre. You're not trying to fix it in post. You're fixing it in pre." And that's really I think one of the challenges about people getting their head around virtual production is this concept of fixing it in pre and actually getting it all in pre-production, so you're not having to push it into post and getting them to fix it for as little money as possible.
Our Rachel went off to see DB Props, really top end prop maker, and when she got there, the boss wasn't there, and she got talking to a really old prop maker that had seen it all, and
Yeah.
he may have been working on the film Predator of all things, and he'd made
Okay.
props that were night vision goggles.
Right.
Night vision goggles haven't got lights shining back into the eyes and lights round, but
No.
that's what they wanted.
Right.
And because they're up at, they're at Shepperton, aren't they? They're at Shepperton, so they weren't that far from set. And he's told the apocryphal story of literally upping from his bench, taking a handful of resistors, going over and putting different values of resistors in to control the brightness of these LEDs until
Right.
it was right on screen.
Yeah.
Whereas what I showed you earlier is that I'm just setting the numbers until
pushing
the
a
director
number.
goes.
Till the director go, yeah, exactly. So it's directable live. No one's having to go back to the trailer. So
Yeah.
so just to sort of, I guess, wrap that up, there's two facets to this, right? It's like there is the actors and the directors' creative craft that can be enhanced with this because stuff's happening, and the directors are able to give live feedback and go, actually, this you're able to direct that prop. The actor is getting a lot of feedback from that prop as well. Like to your point, when they push that button, things start kicking off, and also they react to it. So you could scare someone as well, right? It's like there's a little
You could.
jump, right?
You
You
could.
might not even tell them that this thing's going to happen, and then suddenly the actor's got to push this code in, and they're panicking, kind of thing. So there's that sort of live feedback. So Andy's just holding up a bit of right. So it's a weird prop that he's holding up, and it's like you can hear a motorized sound, and
It's
it's just
not really a prop. It's a linear motor.
It's a linear motor, right, which pushes out basically a bar out the front of it.
And the push on this is 5 kilograms. So
Right.
this can push
So it
5
can push 5
kilograms.
kilograms, right?
So I wouldn't mind being guided by this, but we're calling this we're calling this grip equipment. So
Right.
this thing here, the reason it's got this round thing on it is it was designed to push a metal ball onto the floor. So
Got
you
you.
talk about frightening people.
Yeah.
This actually pushes a metal ball on the floor, or it knocks the microwave off a shelf, or whatever you want it to do.
Okay. Got you. So again, you're not having to rely on a cue for
Yep.
a human to push the microwave off of the tabletop because the poltergeist has appeared. Someone can do something. They could turn they could turn the lamp, the switch on the wall on or off, and then suddenly that falls off. Yeah. So Andy's just sort of turning some standard bedside lamps on and off. There's like 5 or 6 behind him, and he's flicking some switches.
IKEA collection.
IKEA collection of lamps as well. So if it goes sort of go back, so it solves that, right? So it solves this interaction for the actor that doing something and they truly interact it. The director can direct that and give live feedback and live changes. That's too long, it's too bright, it's too dark, it's too red, it's too this, it's too that. The other thing was that it cuts down on VFX as well. So things like it doesn't have to go into post-production and you get live feedback onto it as well.
And it's realism.
And it's realism. Yeah. So yeah. What's not to love about it? In actual fact, it's like, okay, so actually, there's a good question for you. I mean, this looks amazing. I think pretty awesome. I can imagine absolutely people getting really excited about it for props' sake, but also for virtual production. I think it's pretty amazing. What's the downside? Is there any downsides?
I'll give you a great example. So we get on set doing something called Project Headset with the director George Green, and I could show you our display for it, but our web page, because what we're doing is we're creating web pages that are creating these events, because it's the quickest way to do it. Rachel and I are creating web pages, and the names that we're putting on the buttons make sense to us.
Got you.
They don't make sense to the director.
Got you.
And George, being a very sharp individual, it was a 2-day shoot, and sort of just towards the evening of the first day, he starts using our terms. So we've got,
Right.
it's this prop here. It's not, it's a headset. All I've done is I've just put it in a different thing just to show you.
Got you. So Andy's just pointing at sort of a strip. It looks like a strip light, but an LED strip light. We've got pulsating or running sections of the lamp lights, LEDs running up down it. So it looks like the opposite of gravity, I guess. If it was the other way around, it looked like these lights are sort of being affected by gravity.
Yeah. And you can send different. Let me just find it.
So what you're saying there is that there's just those are standards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the easy way to explain what, as you say, it's too early. Is that standards haven't been, because it's you, right? Is there anyone else doing this kind of stuff? I guess some.
There are actually. There's a lot of people that have automated props, but they tend to have done it on a very crude way where they've used radio control. And I've got nothing against radio control, by the way, because I love flying model airplanes.
Right. And that makes sense. It's a binary, right? It's like, I'm going to use this and twiddle that.
And I mean, to be fair, I do. I'm just changing that all the time. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah. So the strip light's sort of changing.
Yeah, I'm changing colours and things like. I mean, I could actually make it do something completely different. But the two things that we've learned are, we didn't have pre-production, by the way. Literally, the morning we got there was the morning we heard what the script was. We got told that the film was about people's interaction with phones, and we made this headset with flowing data going up and down from the phone. And then when we got there, George was like, "No, I want the data to flow one way." I mean, just interestingly, I can stop this. I'll stop that. That's stopped now, and I can reverse it.
Got you. It just So Andy's sort of fiddled around with his iPad, and basically the lights on this strip light are now falling with gravity.
Yeah. So they were going up, they're going down, but we'd heard what the film was about, and we're like, "Oh yeah, there's data flooding at the user, and there's a little bit coming back, of the interaction." "Oh no, I want it all coming one way." "All right, okay, you want it all coming one way." And then when we got there, he had some practical lighting that he was using that had a kind of an aqua colour in it, a lot of green in it. and he wanted more and more green. And in between takes, we were upping the numbers of green. And it was in that process that he started using our terms. So
Got
he'd
you.
say, I want a
Right.
cyan 6W on that.
Got you.
And that's not a term that a director's going to use. He's never heard of it.
No.
He saw the
No.
prop that morning, and by the afternoon he's going, "Oh, Andy, give me a purple 4W on that." In fact, they were orange 3W, purple 4W, cyan 5W, and shade 6W with a.
Oh yeah. So
But
that's
what we
yeah.
should have done is we
Right.
should have called them the name of the scene or
Right.
the mood that they were creating.
Right. So it's a sort of standards metadata kind of thing to be able
Yeah,
to get them to. But that,
yeah.
and that's a good learning.
And
That's a good learning for them.
we called these things Pulse 60, 61, but
Right.
we've said they're the inner flame and the outer. That's the. Oh, hang on. What have I done with that? Oh, it's down here.
So I guess
This thing here's got an inner and outer flame, but
oh yeah.
well worry about
So that's pretty cool. The other thing is also, I think on some previous guests as well, we've talked about actually it can be quite dangerous, the flexibility that this kind of stuff can have. Because once someone works out, like a director, and they're really, really conscious about creativity there, they want to really see they're pushing everything to the boundaries. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do the other? Which in itself can cause huge amounts of problems. Certainly if you don't know where the reset value is, what point those reset values are. So if you've had 10 iterations of a particular thing happening, going back to I really liked the fourth one that we did.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's a real challenge,
That's why
right?
we
And
created a different button every time we did it.
so there we go, right? So
That
there's
was our approach.
that was it. And there are, and yeah, I think the Ultimate is great at saving. You can do a quick save on that, and there's some other bits and pieces. But if you're certainly with Unreal, those little saves now and naming them every sort of those actions, it's a bit easier now because Unreal's you can do that kind of these. I think these are called action saves or something. Someone's going to flame me up, I'm sure, in the group.
I think
Anyway,
there's some other things as well. Like one of the beauties of a real prop is you cannot break the laws of physics, right? So you can't, without wrecking that meter, you can't put enough into it to make it bang off the end and break its needle.
yeah, and the other thing is, I guess, that one of the other we talked about things being uncanny, and the classic is the suitcase that doesn't have anything on it that an actor's walking around with.
Yeah,
But if an actor's holding something made of prop made of polystyrene that looks like it should be made of lead,
yeah.
if it's the prop, it's the prop. It sort of has that weight to it and that interactivity to it. That's amazing. Andy, it's been an absolute eye opener. Thank you so much. This is really, really, really so cool. And I'm
Okay,
really, really glad we've had you on.
that's cool.
Huge big thanks, mate. Huge big thanks. How can people connect with you, contact with you, what you're up to, what you're currently up to at the moment?
Well,
What's the plans?
we just managed to get a new website up, which has actually got less
Right.
information than the previous one, but it
Nice.
looks nicer. And we're going to get some news up there. So automated film props were really easy to find. You can get to us
.com.
there.
.com.
.com, yeah.
Yep. So automatedfilmprops.com. Yep.
You can get to us there. I've picked up quite a few bits actually from Starting Pixels. I just pop in every now and again, and if I see a question I can answer,
Cool.
I'll.
And so, just for the listeners, Starting Pixel. I know this is the Starting Pixel podcast, but we do have a WhatsApp community as well, which you can go to startingpixel.com and join. There's about 1,000 people on there. Andy's on there. We've got some incredibly experienced virtual production people. There's digital humans. There's location capture. There's Gaussian splatting. There's LiDAR. There's all sorts of shenanigans and discussions going about that kind of stuff. As well. So that's great. Yeah, brilliant. And have you got much on?
Yes, we have got a fair bit on at the moment.
Brilliant. Well, that's good.
What's coming up for us at the moment is trying to keep up with the number of modules we need to make and sub-modules. So these are things like this that go inside a prop.
Right. So the circuit boards that go inside the prop.
Yeah,
Got
that's
ya.
important to us. And
Yeah.
we, having worked with George once, we are probably going to have a go at doing a 48-hour film composition with him. And that might be a case of, you have to pick the genre out of a hat. So it's how quickly can we configure a prop from our bag of props to match that genre.
Got yeah.
That will be a little.
Yeah, we should talk about that. I've got the word hackathon written at the top of one of my to-do lists to organise. So that's really good. Brilliant. Okay. So thank you very much. Join us next week as we continue to explore the innovations reshaping our creative industry. We'll be speaking to Alex Groner, founder of Velux XR, a company revolutionizing virtual production by simplifying the creation of real-time 3D content using mobile devices. Alex brings extensive experience from leading gaming studios like EA Games and Sony, where he worked on the FIFA franchise. His work focuses on making volumetric video capture more accessible and efficient for filmmakers and game developers alike. Until next time, I'm Rob Chandler, and you've been listening to the Starting Pixel podcast, where creativity meets innovation. Why film any other way?
Indeed, indeed.